So today, for those who missed yesterday evening session, and for some of you that could not really understand what happened, I had some problems doing the screen record. So I'm doing the complete video on the whiteboard, and I'll be running the code snippets on my phone. So now we're going to talk about Python syntax. Compared to C, Python, the short resemblance at certain points, but they are also very different. So we are going to start with string initialization. When it comes to string initialization, Python is very, very different from C. This is how you can initialize a string in Python. You can just write. So, okay. You have string initialization. We can have A equals to hello, B equals to world. So you can already see the difference. There are two ways of initializing a string in Python. You have the double or the single quotes. Next thing, semicolon. Python doesn't take semicolon. The semicolon in Python is an error. Be very, very cautious when you write your code. I know by default you are used to be adding semicolons to the bit. You need to stop that habit. So types of operation. On a string. Types of operation on strings. We have concatenation. That's just about adding two strings. So let's say you want to add A and B. You can have C equals to A plus. And then you print. And please, Python is case sensitive. So capital P and small p, they don't have the same meaning in Python. It's very important. You can just print C. I know you might ask me, what's the noise of this double quotes here? It's to specify, because space, it's also a character. So we need to specify, we need a space between hello and world. We don't want them join. So if you remove this space, you're going to have something else. You're going to have a hello world joined together as one complete word. And that's not what we want to print out. Exactly.
This is the code. We have A initialized to hello, B initialized to world, and then we are concatenating both. So we are adding A and B to produce one sentence, which we want it to print hello world. So when we run, we have hello world. And then what you need to see is, if in case I remove this, who can tell me what will be the output? Please try writing it down. Write it down somewhere before I run the code. Yes. Okay. So now I'm going to run, and then we're going to see view the output together. You see hello world. That's still both of them, but now they are joined. This is just to make you understand that space is also a character, and you need to specify during your concatenation.
So after concatenation, we're going to talk about repetition. Okay, now for repetition, is just repeating the same line of code multiple times, the same string multiple times. We can just have something like D equals to A equals 0. So pause the video here, please. I want you, before I run this code, I want you to write it down. What do you think will be the output for this? I told you it's just string multiplication, like writing the same string multiple times. So A times 3, what do you think will be the output? Write it down. Don't say you know. Don't run it in your head. Write it down, and later we're going to review the output together. So we're going to have print D.
So now we are on print the string repetition. Who can guess what will be the output for this code before I run it? Try jot your answer somewhere, even in the comment section. So we pause the video and we can review the answer after that. So now I will run, and as you can see, hello 3 times. Now if I change here to, then we're going to see hello 10 times. So that's it, string repetition. It's just like multiplying that string, repeating the same string 10 times.
So after repetition, we're going to talk about getting your string length. Let's say you have a word, and then you want to know how many characters are in that string. So it's not very difficult to get. You can just print len b. Same thing here. What do you think will be the output for this? What do you think? Write it down. I know it's not difficult. It's not that much difficult to think about. Just explain what string length, getting the number of characters in that string.
So we were talking about getting the string length. I think it's very important, because you see it later on. It's very important to differentiate between string length and indexing. Here you are going to see that the string length of B is 5, of course, because we have 5 characters in world, and then the string length of A The string length of A is also 5 because we have 5 characters in the word.
Now, I need to talk about something very, very important. That's called index. You know, just like in C, indexing in Python starts at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. The string length here might be 5, but when you want to count the index, you have 4 index starting from 0. So here is another small exercise you can have is, if I say print B at 3, what do you think might be the string? What do you think might be the character that gets printed out? What do you think might be the output of this print? What do you think might be the output of this print? And then you have something else, a very nice trap. A very nice trap that usually comes also during the exams or the C. You have something like print B a -1. I know you're confused. I like, damn. Is that coming from 0? So where's -1 coming from? Exactly. Yes. This is going to print something out. And I want you to write it down before you run this code. I want you to run it down. Because I've been faced with some things like that. If you go through your past questions, you'll surely see some issues like that. So it's important for you to note it. It's important to know the difference. What happens when we print 0, when we print -1, -2, -3, when we go out of bound. That's why it's very important when you're learning programming. Like, you need to be writing code every time. You need to be testing. You know, you need to be, what happens when I change this? What happens when I change this? It's very important for you to do those type of things.
So, indexing. Yeah, we are asking in Python to give us the character that's located at position 3 in our string. Understand? So here it's going to print L. Understand? Here it's going to print L because L is the character located in the position 3 on our string, that is B. If you start counting from 0, W is 0, O is 1, R is 2, and L is 3, while D is 4. Now I said, what happens when you print -1? And then you see something very nice. Exactly. It prints D, the last character. And I'm sure you already might know what happens when we print -2. Exactly. I'm sure you would have guessed. It just prints L, the second to the last character. So as I said earlier in the video, it's important for you. It's very, very important for you to manipulate your code. Test. You know, it's very important. So you will know what are the different conditions. What happens when we change this? Because lecturers, that's what they usually do. They give you some code snippets and they want you to write out what's the result. And we're going to run that.
So this is small. Outside small intro about string. So we talked about initializing a string. We talked about types of operation of strings. We talked about indexing. We talked about string, getting your string length. Now the next thing we are going to is something also very, very important, and that's just taking an input from the user. Exactly. I know you're like, I'm sure now you're thinking about scanf. I'm sorry for you. I know you're thinking about scanf in C, but we don't have scanf in C. We don't have scanf in Python. We use a different function. We use a different function from getting an input from the user. If you want to get the input from the user, it's very simple. I think I'm just saying it even. X equals to input, enter a number. Don't forget no semicolon. Now this is more trap here. This is more trap. Although I know the wise people might have already guessed it, but this is more trap here. What will happen if I print X times 5 and I enter 5 here? Is it going to print 25 or is it going to print something else? Think about it very well. I'm going to run the code. I'm going to explain.
So here is what I was talking about. We have X equals to input, enter a number, and we print 5. Now the question was, what will happen if the user enters 5? What do you think might happen? So here it is. We have 5 printed out 5 times. That's simple, in fact, because when we hide input without specifying the data type, you see, the compiler considers this that is string. And you know the types of operation possible on string. We have repetition. Repetition, that was just multiplying, like repeating that particular string maybe a certain number of times when you use this multiplication sign. It's very important to know this, because I told you these are traps that come during the exams of the C. I need to be cautious about them.
Now moving to the next thing, we're going to talk about getting an integer from the user, not a string. Because I'm sure I said it in a video. By default, I said it when running the code. By default, this is considered to be a string. So if you want to get an input from the user, an integer from the user, you need to specify, I need an integer for you, so I take int. If you want a floating point number, you need to specify, I need a floating point number from you. So it's very important. So we are int input enter a number. Then we have print theory times x. Now, what do you think will be the output now for this one? I'm sure the majority of you will have already guessed what will be the output.
What do you think will be the output? Write it down. I'm going to run a code. What do you think will be the output if I write 5? Simple, 25. Because now here the data type has been specified and the compiler know, okay, this string that this user is going to input, I need to convert it into an integer. You understand? So that's just it.
So it's important what I'm talking. If you don't specify the data type, by default Python considers it to be a string. So you need to specify the data type. Is it an int or is it a float? Now it's very important to differentiate between an integer and float. Okay, so now the next thing we are going to talk about is indentation. Is very crucial, a very crucial step in Python, indentation. Because compared to C, Python doesn't forgive, Python doesn't forget. Forget your indentation, you lose marks. So we have conditional statement. We are mostly going to see the if, elif, and else conditions. So if, let's say I ask an input from the user, let's say we have an x equals to int input, enter a number. Okay, I have an input. Now I want to compare. Is that input greater than 5? Is it equals to 5? Is it less than 5? You see? Okay. So to compare, you are going to use the if condition. If x is greater than 5. Important. Now we don't use braces for conditions here. You don't use braces. What you do is indentation. You leave space. You come here. You write under. If x is greater than 5, print f. Now f is inside. You can do it differently, but I can tell you the best way to do it is there are two ways you can print. There are two ways you can print because we want our output to look like, let's say if x is 3, we want to be 3 is 6 is greater than 5. So we can have this, x greater than 5. But it becomes a problem when you have many inputs. So what we do here is very simple. We just add an f there. That makes it look like then print f in C, and then we open our braces. Next we have our x here is greater than 5. Simple. That's it. Elif x is equals to 5. Now I have another question for you guys. What's the difference between this and this? Another chap. Be sure to write your answer before I give the correct. I want the code and I'll show you the difference and I'll give you the correct answer. Okay. So here I'm going to print x is equal to 5. Else, else we don't need to specify. If it's not greater, it's not equal, then surely it's less than 5. So that's it. Indentation, very important. We don't put semicolons. They are not useful in Python.
As I said earlier on, there are two ways you can print an output. 2 ways. Okay. The first method is to specify. Maybe you say string. You see, you tell the compiler, okay, I want you to convert it into string, and then concatenate it. I'm sure we show string concatenation, and you definitely know why am I adding this space here. I'm sure you know why I'm adding this space here, because I don't want them to be joined. This, I'll just concatenate string, and then I hide my string. Yes, is greater than 5. Simple. Or you can just use the second method. You can just use the second method I also showed you. That was just print. Then you put F instead. You see, just like in the normal C. And then here, there's no need for you again like to put string, maybe your input string input plus this. No, there's no need for you to do that. You just write your input in. You just put your input in braces. And yeah, the Python compiler is going to understand what you're trying. Like this is an input, so write it like that. Okay, so you have X is greater than 5. If X is equal to 5, print you print X is equal 5. Simple. And the next one. Else. Don't forget, there's no condition in else. There's no condition in else. Because we already know if the first is not true, the second is not true, then we just print the last. X is less than 5. Okay, so now I'm sure the equation I asked was, what's the difference between x equals to 5 and s equals to 5? You're going to test all that. So you're going to run this first and test. If we put 7, then we get printed 7 is greater than 5, 7 is greater than 5 2 times, exactly, because of this, because of both these quotes I told you that the same thing. But you see, if you remove this part here where there is that empty open brace, you're going to have something else, like a 7 they'll be joined together. Okay, so the next thing we'll try is when they're equal, what will happen if we put 5? Okay, 5 is equals to 5. That's pretty straightforward. Now what happens if I remove here? I have x equals to 5 and then it's equal to 5. You see, yeah, maybe you might not see the condition because if this first code runs, you see, the second one will not go anymore. But you see something very, you see, in fact it just even prints invalid. It's not possible because equal to 5 is an assignment. You understand? We are assigning x to 5. You understand? So that's causing an issue because we are assigning is different from the condition w equals to. That's comparison. It's important to know this. And then once we put maybe x2 or even -1, -5, we have -5 is less than 5. So that's just it.
So we talked about string, the type of operation on string, concatenation, repetition. We talked about getting the string length, that's just the number of characters in the string. We talked about indexing, start counting from 0. We talked about getting an input, which by default is considered to be a string. Now you need to specify the data type. We show the difference between integer and floating point number and how they affect your code. We talked about condition, if, elif, else, and then the importance of indentation in Python. It's very important for you to note all this. So this is Comte William from STEM Lab, and until we meet again next week, same day, same time, stay curious.